Hey guys, welcome back to another Thursday Draw Along. I'm Jen Keller from Jen Keller Art, and today I'm very excited to present to you Mario the Adorable Alpaca from the Phillips Park Zoo. I thought it would be fun to venture into the land of domesticated animals, and we haven't done a herd animal yet. So get your pencils ready, get your papers laid out, hope you have your eraser, and let's get started on drawing this very handsome alpaca Mario.
All right, so let's start. So for Mario, I actually went and lightened the photo because this is a pretty dark photo. So I wanted to be able to see a lot of the details in this so we could capture his sweet face. So we're going to start with a big oval in the middle of our page. Nice big oval. So you've got a nice big oval shape head. And our oval is going to be sort of not as pointy at the top or the bottom, but a little more rounded oval. Has that kind of shape head. And then we're just going to mark a nice diagonal for the neck. So we're coming out here, those cute long necks that they have. We get that down. Now let's mark where our features are going to go. These guys have pretty adorable, distinct features, and you can see this photograph is pretty close. So it's a little distorted, but that's kind of what makes it cute, the big eyes and the big nose. So we're going to kind of split. You see it's kind of almost in thirds. The eyes are about 1/3 of the way up. The nose is about 1/3 of the way down, not exactly half, right? So it's about 1, 2, 3. Just kind of estimate 1/3 up. The nose is about 1/3 of the way down a little bit. So then we have our head marked in thirds. Then we're going to mark the center of his face. Now again, this is not the center of the oval, but the actual center in the face, which is pretty close. You can see it's pretty close to the center of the oval, but not quite. So it's a slight 3/4, but not an exact marking there. So once you get that all down, get everything marked in thirds, we're going to come back and mark where this muzzle is. Again, that muzzle is the front part of their head that sort of sticks out. Now this, again, we're dealing with some foreshortening. We've talked about that before, where our object is coming straight out into the camera lens. This is called foreshortening. So we're going to mark this part of his muzzle. Kind of an oval within an oval. I'm going to kind of go like this, right in here. And again, this center line is going through there. And the nose is kind of towards the top of that oval. And again, we're going to mark this in thirds. This is a little, the nostrils are a little closer to the top, and you can kind of mark where his mouth is going to go down here. You know, and this is our foundation. You always want to make sure you have a good foundation for your drawing. Make sure you get all those parts in the right place. I always say, you know, you can draw the most beautiful eye, but if that eye is in the wrong place, your drawing is not exactly, there's always going to be something a little off about it. Now we're just going to mark out this neck that comes out. And here's something about necks, especially here, his face is all shaved, right? Which is kind of what is great about this picture, because we can really see all of his features. Unlike, you know, normally you see them. This is another picture of Mario and Mateo. Look at how fuzzy they are. They're so cute. But, you know, you can't really see what's going on there. So this is actually a great piece to work from, because you can really see what's going on structurally wise, and get it all in there structure wise. And then you can work on top of it. But our neck is coming out from the head. Actually, it's a little more like this. And you always want to draw necks. They come out from the jaw, right? So your neck lines always, there's a curve to them, whether you're drawing people or animals. You know, your necks don't do this, right? Unless, you know, you're pushing and you're doing a little more stylized, then that's fine, of course. But for, you know, sort of realistic or stylized realism, which is what I like to call my personal style. So yeah. So once we get that neck marked in there, let's go ahead and map out some of these other details. Let's get these ears in. These ears are sort of back, aren't they cute? They're sort of back. It's sort of this timid way. I think he's a little, he's a little upset. All of his cool hair is gone. He's like, where did it all go? So you're gonna mark, it's like a, almost like a rounded triangle shape that's sort of coming out from the back here. And then it's gonna come down around underneath where those eyes are, right? And then again, I did a little marking line. It's a little hard to see, but you have the same thing over here. It's just a little smaller. And again, in this one, because of the angle, the ear line is a little higher up, whereas on this side, it's further down. And that's just because of the angle and the perspective of how we're looking at this. All right. So once you get that all down, next we are going to map out, let's get some of these features in. We have everything marked out where the things are going to go, and we're going to mark out some of these features. So these eyes, now Mateo here is an animal of prey, right? He is not a predator. So his eyes are actually on the side of their head, as opposed to predators who generally have their eyes in the front, especially for mammals, because this gives these animals a wider range. They can see all around them to see if someone's, or something, I should say, is sneaking up on them. So we want to do a circle. They have super big round eyes. And on this side, because of the angle again, it's going to be like an oval. We're going to mark those eyes in there. Super big, super dramatic, gorgeous eyes. Okay, so once we get that in there, let's come down here and mark out this nose. So this muzzle is kind of coming straight out at us. We have these big, gorgeous nostrils flaring out, and then we have his mouth here. So for his nostrils, we're going to kind of do, it's a little diagonal line sort of coming up and in, and then it kind of comes around like that, right? And then on the other side, it's the same, but it's going to be a little smaller again because of that angle, right? Because of that perspective, that 3/4, this one is going to be a little bigger than this one. And that's why we have the center line marked in the middle of our nose here. I'm going to have that and that. Sort of coming in like this. There we go. And then we're going to have a curved line underneath there. Right? I'm going to switch out my pencils here. And actually, I think we want this nostril a little bit bigger. And you guys might notice I change my pencils a lot. Part of that is because I like a really sharp a really sharp pencil. And the other part of it is each one of my pencils is a different type of lead. So the one I was using before was an F, which is a little lighter lead. It's not as soft, it's a little harder. And this is a 2H, which is a sort of a classic. That's what when you go to school and they ask for a number 2 pencil, that's a 2H pencil. Or sorry, not a 2H, this is a little harder. I meant to grab my 2B, or not 2B. There we go. 2B. So if there's a B, there we go. Now you can see that nice and dark, right? So if there's a B behind that lead or that number, that generally means it's a softer lead, but you don't have to press as hard to get it darker. For anything that has an H or higher, so 2H, 4H, if you see all those, 8H, those are more technical pencils, and those are going to be a little, if you press hard, it's not going to be as dark. So those are good for doing foundations, and then when you kind of want to do features, I like to get a little softer so I don't have to press as hard. So we're going to follow the center line. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. I'm going to follow the center line, and then it's going to curve out. We're going to work on that cute little muzzle, curve out. It's got this kind of smiley face going on, right? And then we're going to come down, and his nostrils kind of come down and around like this. Going to do a little curved line around that, and he's got this like cute little round muzzle shape coming up. And then his chin kind of comes down and around. It's a little more square. This is a rounder, but the down below here is a little more square. And then we're not going to continue at all because this is, like I said, this is a almost straight on, but a little more 3/4 of a view, right? So that'll kind of give it that illusion that this side is overlapping. This side is overlapping this cheek, and this side is continuing to this cheek, even though it's a very straight on picture of the handsome man, Mateo. So we can go ahead and erase some of these foundation lines. But that's whenever you go to an art store and you're looking at the pencils and you're like, I don't understand all these B's and H's and everything. That's what it is. If it's a B and any higher, it's going to be darker. You don't have to press as hard to get it nice and dark. And H and higher, again, those are more technical pencils, and they're going to come out lighter. And when you press hard, you don't have to worry about it getting super dark. So we can draw another little curved line under his chin. So we got this curved line here for this chin, curved line here for his muzzle, this sort of S-like shape, right? Curve in, out, up for the nose. And now let's work up in these eyes. So we did big circles for these eyes, but they have these big, luxurious eyelashes to protect them, protect those big eyes. So we're actually going to do a little diagonal line out for these eyelashes, and then this eye sort of comes in like this. Do a little curved line up. And you're going to do the same thing over here. You're going to, for the eyelid, going into these lashes, you're going to kind of do a line, diagonal line coming out from the eye, just like that. Get that in there. And again, this eye is sort of set in, so you're going to do a little line cutting this off, and then this is the rest of your eyeball shape, and you can kind of finish that off there. And then this has a nice round shape. And then you can go ahead and erase these lines here. And then we have this all down, so I think we can erase a lot of these foundation lines too. Go ahead and erase all those foundation lines. Get that all done. So there's always a big, not a debate, but there's always questions about the differences between alpacas and llamas. So Mateo here or not Mateo, Mario. Mateo is the other one. Mario here is an alpaca, and they're actually much smaller than llamas. Llamas are much bigger, and they have different shaped ears. These ears are back, but alpaca's ears, if they're straight up, are a little more straight like this, whereas llamas are shaped like bananas. They're a little more like this. So that's a really good way. Size and the shape of their ears are two really distinct ways you can tell the difference between alpacas and llamas. Now we're gonna kind of go in and fuss with the shape of the head. Again, we did a general oval, but his head is a little more squared off at the top, right? So you're gonna come in and kind of continue that line over, and you see it goes almost into that ear. Come over like this. And then you can kind of erase the top. It's going to come up a little. You see it's a little, see how a little more flatter, more flat that is. Oh, sweet Mario. But yeah, that's one of the differences. Their ear shape and their sizes are two big differences. Also, this alpaca is facing straight forward, but also since the llamas are bigger, their noses are a little bit longer, and their fur is not as soft. Alpacas have super soft fur, where llamas' fur is a little more coarse. And that's why they use alpaca fur to make clothing and shawls and blankets. All right, so now that you have your head shape rounded off, and you know, we have the basic drawing of this muzzle in here, let's go in and let's do these eyes. Now, this alpaca, Mario here, his eyes are really dark, and it seems to me his pupils are fairly dilated. So they're gonna be a little rounder. Figure this one out, it's really dark here. It's gonna be a little rounder, that's sweet. But when their pupils are looking into the sun, they actually they have that horizontal shape like this, right? So, and especially a lot of alpacas have lighter eyes, and goats and everything have their eyes like that. And that also is a prey animal thing, because as their pupils get smaller when they look into the sun, it still gives them a nice range of being able to see everywhere. But he's got some nice round ones, so we're just gonna, at least that's what it looks like to me. And then we're gonna come in, and plus it just makes him that much more cute. And then we're going to come in, and now we really have almost all of our foundation down here. I'm going to work on the shape of this head. It actually kind of comes in here. You guys see that? And comes around like this. And then let's work on this side of the head too. This actually is a little more straight, not as round. And it actually comes in, we're almost right behind that eye, so we're gonna push that in a little bit like this. And that's the thing with your foundations. That's why I like to use a harder lead and not press as hard. I press a little harder for you guys so you can see it, but that way when you go to erase all this foundation, there's not much left there, right? So there you go. Getting there. Now let's go in and work out a little bit more of these details here. So their eyes they have these big long lashes, so you don't want to forget to do these long lashes. Again, it protects them from the sun, protects them from dirt and sand, anything getting into those big old eyes. Big dramatic, you see them coming out here, these big dramatic eyes, right? And then up here, we're gonna kind of come up here and continue. His nose kind of comes around like this. And you can even kind of come up in here. And finish it off like that. Now, let's go in and get working on our gravy, right? I mean, here we have our foundation. We have the foundation of our drawing. We have the bones. Now let's flesh out some details. So these eyes are really big and dark. So you're gonna wanna fill in that pupil nice and dark. And then the iris is really dark too. I mean, there's hardly a distinction really in there. I mean, and you could actually, if you wanted to, you could just fill it in almost the same hue or the same value, the whole eyes, which value, in case you didn't know, is how light or dark something is. So if it's a lighter value or darker value. And then in order to keep that from looking flat, we want to have a little reflection, so we can do that lifting off that we talked about. I use my kneaded eraser, but if you guys at home have a regular pencil, you can just use the other end of your pencil there. You want to have a little he's got a little reflection down there, and he's got a little reflection on this side too. And that's going to give you that little 3D look like we talked about, right? Like a little bit of dimension. See that? Just that tiny little trick kind of does everything. That's like one of the things I think that's so cool about drawing, is the tiniest little thing you can change will make all the difference in your drawing. So again, these nostrils are nice and dark. Let's fill those in. And then, but he looks a little naked. We don't really have any fur, any markings for fur. So first of all, let's finish this ear off. There's going to be sort of a curved line here. You can see that. This is sort of the under part of his ear. And over here, you can't really see it very much. I might cheat and put a little one right there. And then we're going to come in, and here's what you can do with a lighter line, sort of continue that nose up, right? And give you that, again, that 3-dimension. And then let's mark out some details, some fur and stuff here. So again, this guy's been shaved, so he doesn't have that fuzzy, poofy fur that you see sort of before they've been clipped. So, but it's kind of going in all sorts of different ways. So I always say, like, you kind of want to do your hatching in the direction of the fur if you're going to come in here and do details. And again, also, you don't have to draw every single little piece of fur. You just do that, your sort of zigzag lines, and make sure that they are not uniform. You kind of want them going every which way. And look up here, he's got kind of a little bit sticking up there. You kind of want to go all over, and that's going to make it look a little more natural, right? So you can kind of go in, do a little bit zigzag up here, and again, you're going to want to do that kind of all around. And you definitely want to, again, you don't want it uniform. You don't want it like this. You want to try to make it going in all sorts of different directions, right? All the way around. So you can do that all the way around by his cheek. You see there's a little bit sticking out there. He's got a little blue right there. That's kind of really cute. And then here, to kind of help with this, you know, you can do a little, you see we have this shape there, which is part of his just face coming out. Yeah, and then you just kind of want to look at the way his furs. And you can go in and pattern, like I've talked about before, you can go in and hatch out and pattern out all this fur in here, right? You can do that. You can do that with shading. You can do that with hatching. And then we want to set back these eyes too. Let's do a little shading here. You see how these eyes are nice and set back? So I'm going to do a little line here and a little hatching down here. Kind of give that sunken in look. And this is if you want, Mario's a pretty dark alpaca. Now if you wanted to take this as a foundation and maybe you wanted to do a alpaca that had lighter fur, like you might not do that. You might keep it a little lighter. And then here's another thing, you want to make sure you get some shadow in under his chin too, because that's going to give some differentiation to that as well. And again, they have a lot of fur coming out of their ears, and this down here is going to be darker than up here. So you can come in and do that. Again, under here. Yeah, and you're going to do a couple little curved lines here to get that to set out. But yeah, just look at that way that fur kind of goes all in different directions. And you know, you can give a little hint of it, little zigzags everywhere. And then we have some whiskers coming out of here. But yeah, there you go. A little shading underneath his mouth to get a differentiation. And his front of his face is a lot darker than the back. So what I would do, I'm looking for here it is, this handy dandy pencil that I know you've seen me use before. You can really shade this in. And again, you don't have to use this OLED pencil. I just like to use it especially for these demos because I can just do it a lot faster. Kind of come up in here. It's a lot darker. You want to fill in a lot darker around his nose. And then if you want to make him a little bit darker, because like I said, we actually lightened this up. So this is the actual photograph. So you can see what a dark, handsome man this guy is. So you can take that side of your pencil and do a light shading all over. And get them all shaded in there. Get that all shaded in. So you can see how I did that with the regular pencil. So you can easily do that with your pencils at home and get them all shaded in. And then you can go out and then, like I said, you can pattern out all this fur in different directions. I'm not gonna sit here and do that for you because I think you would get a little bored of watching me pattern all the fur. But as you sort of push and pull and work on him, you can, you know, there you go. Here's a final. So this took me, just so you guys know, these demos last, you know, 20, 30 minutes, but this piece probably took me a couple hours, you know, to get all of that fur and shading in. So don't feel like when you watch these demos, you have to have this perfect finished piece. It's the bones, it's the jumping off point for you to make your final drawing. But there you go. There is the adorable Mario the alpaca.
I hope you guys had a really fun time today. I know I did. I always have a good time drawing these animals with you. Of course, I want to see your interpretation of Mario the alpaca. So please make sure to put your final drawings and pieces, whatever you decide to do with yours, paint, draw, put a little tracing paper over your line drawing, do some inking. You know, the next step is up to you. So put those final pieces in the comments. I always love to see your work. And of course, a shout out to Aurora Public Art for hosting me, and the Phillips Park Zoo for letting us draw your beautiful animals. And if you want to work further on this piece, this photograph is actually on the social media for the Phillips Park Zoo. You can find it on their Instagram, and I believe it's on their Facebook page as well. So I hope you guys are having a great summer. Be sure to stay safe as always, stay healthy, and as we go day by day, please stay creative. Have a great weekend.